Hello everyone, my name is Noor Alalawi. I'm from the University of Bahrain and I would love to present our work today entitled Enhancing the Quality of Life Through Design, Guidelines to Fostering Place Attachment in Bahraini Buildings. Place attachment is the bond between human beings and their environment. It's also considered a key contributor in enhancing occupants' quality of life and well-being. So climate change has many different consequences on place attachment, on well-being, and the quality of life. And therefore, place attachment in buildings is very important. It helps alleviate isolation, uncertainty, loneliness. It can ensure successful design, and it can even address climate change adaptation. And so place attachment enhances the quality of life in different scales, so in places, in buildings, neighborhoods, and even cities. And on table one, on the right-hand side, we can see that the capital of Bahrain, which is Manama, ranks number 6 within the GCC countries and cities, and it ranks 144 out of 241 cities worldwide. There are currently limited studies on place attachment in the GCC and in Bahrain. Additionally, there's an increase in flexible, multifunctional buildings in Bahrain, promoting interaction and sustainability. And there's a gap in studies of enhancing the quality of life through design in Bahraini buildings. So this brings us to the main aim of the research, which is to investigate the architectural factors that impact place attachment in Bahraini buildings. And this is to guide designers and stakeholders in the design of a new sustainable, multifunctional building typology in the urban district of Dilmonia, Bahrain. And so the paper is split into 5 different parts. The first is the literature review, talking about place attachment, moving on to the quantitative methodology, and finally presenting the results and discussion along with the guidelines for design, and then finally a conclusion. Place attachment is considered a complex psychological phenomenon that is subject to different social, economic, and environmental factors. And there are many concepts and theories that are connected to this. For example, Ralph's place and placelessness, Tuan's topophilia, and even Scannell and Gifford's tripartite framework of place attachment, which is presented here on the right. And it shows the connection between person, whether it's individual or collective, place, and process, which are the behaviors of people within places. So the most popular definition of place attachment is actually the emotional and cognitive bonds between a person and a place. It's also about creating a sense of place. And having this relationship between person, place, and process, or spatial, temporal, and social. And there are different ways of measuring place attachment. Literature shows that they're mostly quantitative methods, and they usually focus on the why and how people are attached to places. And in this particular study, we are using Likert scale, as is present in existing literature, and we are using 3 predictors, which are the socio-demographic, social, and physical predictors of place attachment. And although literature shows different scales of measuring place attachment, we are using the building scale over here because we're more focused on actual buildings instead of cities and neighborhoods. Existing literature on place attachment shows that there are different architectural factors that have an impact on place attachment, and these include physical factors and social factors. So physical factors could include comfort, nature, social spaces, music, aesthetics, while social factors focus on shared purpose spaces, familiarity, culture and tradition, safety and security, and finally proximity and accessibility. The concept of multifunctional buildings has become so popular recently because they are adaptable spaces, flexible, transformative, and hybrid spaces in building design. So these spaces are publicized in sustainable development. They contribute to architectural and urban sustainability and resilience. They help increase place attachment, and they enhance interaction and quality of life. On the right, we can see a diagram of Bahrain's National Land Use Plan, and we can see that multifunctional buildings are the 7th largest typology, which highlight their significance in Bahrain's future planning. Nowadays, the transformation and cultural dynamics of modern life has really led to more time spent indoors, and particularly in multifunctional spaces, which emphasize the relevance of this typology today. So multifunctional buildings have the potential to facilitate social interaction and thereby enhancing place attachment and promoting overall occupant well-being. And so when it comes to the materials and methods, a quantitative method was used. So an online questionnaire was distributed via Google Forms in both Arabic and English. The first part of the questionnaire included questions on demographics, the second about nature and frequency of visits, and finally factors that impact place attachment. So the study included 194 total participants, and Table 2 here represents the demographics in more detail, showing a fair balance between genders, between age groups, and even places of residence within the country. The second part of the questionnaire included the nature and frequency of visits, and from the dataset we can see that coffee shops and malls were visited the most by the participants. However, co-working spaces were the least visited. Regarding the factors that have an impact on place attachment in the final part of the questionnaire, we can see that comfort has the most significant influence on participants' place attachment. However, music and cultural and traditional identity have the least impact on place attachment. And there was one final question that was open-ended, an optional question, and the participants could express what could also contribute or enhance their attachment to buildings. And some of them suggested that sea views enhance place attachment. Others said natural lighting, sufficient parking, color, transportation, technology, and even simplistic designs. To analyze the different factors that influence the frequency of visits to these multifunctional buildings, statistical analysis was performed, and particularly multiple linear regression using SPSS. And having a 95% confidence interval, we can see that age and gender are statistically significant and actually impact the frequency of visits to coffee shops, wellness centers, malls, and co-working spaces. Gender is the only statistically significant variable for outdoor parks, and age is statistically significant in the frequency of visits to clinics and educational facilities. To determine the factors that have an impact on place attachment, frequency analysis on the Likert scale data was performed, and the stacked bar chart on the right is used to visualize the score distribution. So comfort, which includes having comfortable furniture, materials, and lighting, it dramatically enhances place attachment in the study. However, music, building aesthetics, cultural and traditional identity, they have the least impact on place attachment. So based on the results of the study, proposed guidelines are presented here to enhance place attachment in Bahraini buildings. And these happen at different scales, so at macro scales and micro scales. The macro level is associated with the project site and context, and it highlights safety, security, and accessibility as key factors in strengthening place attachment. And so to promote these feelings of safety and security, we need adequate lighting in different spaces. We need the presence of signages, technologies, clear safety policies, and trained staff to increase perceptions of safety and security. Additionally, with regards to accessibility, so we need clear access to the building, and the location of the actual building is very important. So it needs to be close to different amenities and transportation to enhance place attachment to these buildings. As far as the building design goes, so having multiple services within the building is very important, and these should include everyday and occasional spaces. Also, natural elements are considered vital in these spaces, so having green spaces, blue spaces, and even daylighting and views outside of the building can be very important. As for the architectural details, so we need to be focusing on providing comfort within spaces. So looking at comfortable furniture, different materiality, different calm lighting, for example, and even having thermal comfort or an adequate indoor environment that can truly help the well-being. It can enhance the well-being of users, in addition to enhancing their place attachment. And to conclude, the findings of the study highlight that coffee shops, malls, educational facilities, and wellness centers are among the most visited building typologies in Bahrain. Prioritizing comfort, accessibility, safety, security, natural elements, and having multiple services within buildings is considered essential, can increase well-being and thereby enhance place attachment. Future studies can look at having an increase in sample size, integrating different qualitative data, expanding the regression analysis, and having comparative case studies within Bahrain. The proposed guidelines in the study, they provide valuable insights to designers and stakeholders for designing a new building typology in Bahrain, which can truly improve user experience and place attachment, thereby enhancing the well-being and quality of life of occupants. Thank you.